Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here, welcome back to the railway, and I've got a big treat for you today. Well, it's going to be a treat for me, I'm hoping it's going to be a treat for you. Brand new loco, let's get to it. So this is really awesome. This is roughly the second time in about 2 weeks that I've been filming a review straight after the postman has been, and sure enough, the postman literally has just delivered today's loco, and it's one that I've had pre-ordered for absolutely ages, and finally it's here and I can unbox it for you. So it is this. It is the brand new J36, and this version is Maude. This is the version I've been waiting for. They've had the LNER version already released, they've had the BR Black version already released, but this is the pre-grouping version, and this is the one I wanted. Now, as you can probably see, this also has TTS sound on board. This is a DCC fitted locomotive with sound, which is really awesome. I've not looked at one of those for quite a while. Now, the price of these, at least from Hatton's, is £148.50, and to start with, you might think that that sounds a little bit expensive, and yeah, I thought that too, but actually, having pondered it a little bit, I don't think that sounds too bad, at least not for a locomotive with DCC sound on board, because there's another manufacturer, won't say which, that is producing a similar 060 tender locomotive, which is due to be released over the next few years, and the prices of those is 180 up to 200 quid. So actually, considering that those are just DC only, with no sound or anything, this doesn't sound too bad for £148.50. And of course, if DCC sound or TTS sound isn't your thing, you can just get the pure, DC version, which you can ship yourself. Those are quite a lot cheaper, I think £126.50, if that's right. £126 is the non-DCC version. But curiously, if you want this pre-grouping version, you have to go with the TTS sound, which is a little sneaky from Hornby. But to be honest with you, I quite like the digital sound. I like the TTS sound, so I don't mind paying a little bit extra for it. Anyway, that's enough waffling. I can't really wait any longer to get this out, so we're going to do that right now, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, let's do it. I can't tell you how much I've looked forward to this. For those who don't know, this is exactly more or less my cup of tea, pre-grouping tender locos. I absolutely love them. Okay, so I'm going to get into this in just a second. First of all though, here's a little look at the end of the box. So you can see the product number for this particular version is R3600 TTS. It is in the NBR livery, which stands for the North British Railway, I think. It's a Class J36, quite obviously, and the number is 673, and it's Maude with sound, of course. And I'm also really looking forward to hearing how this sounds. Okay, let's have a little look at the back of the box then. So as you can see there, this is classified as a 2F, it looks like, by the BR. Quite cool that, so not a very powerful loco overall. In the centre, you can see we do have a brief history of the class, and feel free as always to pause that and read it if you'd like to. And then on the far end, this is normally my favourite part of the box. You can see some of the diagrams that Hornby had produced, really, I suppose, to help design the model. And that's dated 2017, so once again, that gives you a bit of an idea of how long these were in production for. Okay, so at this point I've not even had the outer sleeve of the box off yet, so this really will be my first ever look at this, and maybe yours too, I don't know. Although, I tell you the truth, I have been to a few model railway exhibitions and seen them on Hornby's stand, but that's very different to owning one and having one in your hands, I think. So, let's get this out. Let's squeeze this out of the box. Man, it's tight. Man, it is tight. Wow, there it is. And what a weird livery. I don't know if you can really see this, but the lining is sort of like yellow lining. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think I've ever had a loco with yellow lining on it before, so this really will be something new and different for me. Okay, let's get this out then. I want to have a look what this is like. Okay, so the actual blister pack here does feel pretty good and heavy, which is great news. We'll take a closer look at that in just a second. Here we have the digital TTS sound guide for the J36. Let's just open this up and take a quick look, see if we can see some of the sounds. Most of this is not very interesting, but yeah, there we go. There's a list of the different sounds. We'll try some of these later on, if not all of them, so we'll get onto that in more detail later on. But yeah, that's quite handy, and obviously if you're new to DCC or TTS sound, it's worth looking through that just to sort of familiarise yourself with it. And then here we have the J36 class operating and maintenance instructions. Let's just open that up, see what's inside. Okay, so it looks as though it is the standard sort of Hornby box standard diagram. Lubrication, fitting accessories, so we'll take a look at the accessories bag in a second. Assembly, which I suppose must mean disassembly. Yep, DCC fitting, all of that stuff, although of course this one is already DCC fitted, so that's not a huge worry. All right. Shall we get this out then? Shall we see what this is like? I can see quite a hefty detail bag on the top, so we'll start with that, I reckon. All right. Okay, blimey, yeah, there's quite a lot in here. What is that? Is that a snow plough? I think that is a plough on the front, so you can fit that to the front if you wanted to. That's very cool. I will have to double check, but yeah, it looks like a plough. So let's see here. We've got brake rigging for both the loco and tender. We've got painted vacuum pipes, it looks like. A few different bits of pipe work as well. Front coupling. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. There's quite a lot in there, isn't there? Quite a bit for you to fit yourself, I suppose, but the model itself, from what I just saw through the packaging, looks pretty detailed anyway. And man, it feels heavy, especially front heavy. So I wonder if we've got some die cast on this loco. Very possibly. That would be great, wouldn't it? Right, well, let's get this out then. At last, here we go. Gosh, it's almost glossy. I don't think it is a gloss finish, but it almost looks glossy. That is a really, really nice finish. Okay. Oh, right, wow. It is actually very, very heavy and also very beautiful. Look at that livery. Normally, the black liveries are a bit dull, aren't they? And I know a lot of people think that way, but this one really isn't. The lining is so intense, if intense is the right word. It's so vibrant, almost, that it really does just bring the whole thing to life. That is absolutely awesome. Right, well, I'm going to have a good close look at this, and while I do, I will give you a little bit of info on the J36 and their background, and after I've done that, we will get this up against my backdrop, and we will take a really good close look at this. I'm really looking forward to this one. It looks really awesome. Okay, here we go then with a little background. So the J36 started life way back in 1888 when it was introduced to the North British Railway to the design of Matthew Holmes. In the NBR days, so that's before 1926, before grouping happened of course, the class was actually known as the NBR C-Class, and that's not to be confused with the SECR/Southern Railway C-Class of course, and 200 of these were produced in total between 1888 and 1901, although the final 32, towards the end of that period, were rebuilt from Drummond J32 locomotives, I think, and the class was primarily intended for freight work, and it featured 18-inch inside cylinders with Stephenson valve gear also hidden between the frames. 123 examples survived long enough to enter BR ownership, although by 1967 the final 2 members of the class were withdrawn and scrapped, with no survivors unfortunately. And after this, no more steam locomotives remained in service in Scotland, which is quite an interesting fun fact, I suppose. Okay, so there she is then. There is Maude up against the white background, and I think this is one of those locos where you can just tell what the verdict is going to be before you even get into the nitty-gritty of it. This thing is absolutely beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It's been a really long time, not that other locos aren't, obviously, but it has been a long while since I've loved an engine as much as this. So to start with then, I have done the unthinkable, and I've opened up the detail bag. I've lived dangerously, basically, and I've fitted the snowplow onto the front of the loco, just because I really wanted to see what it looked like. And the answer is, it looks very, very cool. Look at that there. It's such a shapely snowplow, isn't it? And it was very easy to fit. It basically goes into the NEM pocket at the front of the loco. You have to take the pocket off the coupling, which is also included in the detail bag, and then the snowplow just slips straight into the pocket, and it's a good snug fit. So that was absolutely fine, and provided it doesn't foul up on my point work or track work, I will leave that on there because I think that looks very, very cool. So I want to take back what I said earlier on about saying I think this is reasonably good value for money, because I've changed my mind. I don't think this is just reasonably good value for money. I think, given all of the features of this model, it is superb value for money. And I also noted earlier on that there's quite a lot of weight to this thing, and there's a really, really good reason for that. And that is because there is very, very little on this locomotive itself, not necessarily the tender, but on the loco, that is not made of die cast. And I know that's where people sort of fall off their chairs and things, but yeah, that explains why it is a little expensive, but I think given that so much of this is die-cast, that is easily justified, and I strongly approve of that. So, I think all of the boiler, in fact, and the firebox is all made of die-cast. It's cold to the touch, so I think that's true. I think the running board is die-cast. The front of the, well, the sides at least, of the smoke box are die-cast. As I say, there's very, very little plastic on the model itself. In fact, it's only really the cab, I think probably the smoke box door, and maybe the chimney, although I'm not absolutely sure. I wonder if the cap of the chimney is made of die-cast. Either way, there's an awful lot of die-cast, and I think that's really what gives the boiler that really lovely metallic shine, which was noticeable as soon as I flipped the packaging open. So that really does make a noticeable difference, and just holding a loco in your hands that's made of die-cast, the coldness of the metal, the slight glossy finish, just brings it to life for me, and I really don't think you can put a price on that. It really is that good. Second of all then, the paintwork. Now we've already noted the paintwork and how just astonishingly eye-catching it is, and as you can see the paintwork on the actual boiler itself is done to a really high standard. You can't fault that. The tiniest little criticism there is of course that the banding doesn't quite match up with this join underneath the boiler there, which is quite noticeable. It could have done with being a little bit further round on the underside so it doesn't catch the eye quite as much, but I'm sure once we're looking down on it on the layout that won't be too bad. And there are other tiny little issues with the paintwork. For example, you can see the sort of plate on the side of the cab there is a little bit dodgy looking. I don't know what's going on with that. It's not a problem, it's still legible of course, but I don't know, there's just something a little messy about it perhaps, I'm not 100% sure. But either way, on the front splasher here you can see there is this builder's plate, and again there's just something not quite right about it. There is lettering on there, but it's illegible for some reason. I don't know what's gone wrong with that. On the packaging on the box there was lettering on there which looked as though it was a bit more legible, but yeah, on the actual model it hasn't come out too great. Either way though, there is an awful lot of lining as you can see, which has been done to a high standard on the side of the cab, and of course the Maude nameplate on the middle splasher there is absolutely fine, nothing wrong with that at all. As you can see on the front of the cab we've got glazed windows, but again the lining around that glazing seems to have gone off kilter a little bit, and in fact if you look at the left one I think it is, you can see some of that lining has actually gone onto the plastic glass. Now that might well be prototypical, as I say I'm no expert on the real thing, but I would doubt it. But if anybody's seen the real Maude, let me know, are the front windows actually like that? But that's not the end of the features, because there is an awful lot of really impressive detail on this thing. So looking in front of the cab you can see there is quite a bit of complex pipework. We have the safety valves here which appear to be actually made of metal, and again you can see that there's a bit of a contrast between those and the whistle. I think the whistle is made of plastic. I assume the whistle is a little bit too complex to make out of die cast, but you can see the difference, can't you, between those two components. You can see the whistle that has been painted to look like it's metal and the safety valves there that are in fact metal. There is quite a bit of difference there, and that's normally why I prefer it when we see metal work, but either way the whistle is quite a nicely moulded piece as you can see. On the side of the smoke box we've also got a similarly highly detailed piece coming out the side here. Is that the clack valve or something like that? I believe it might be. I might be wrong though, as I say I'm no expert. Again, it seems to be made of plastic, but again it is quite a complex piece and it does come across as quite convincing, so no complaints there. The reversing rod here once again is made of metal. Sometimes you get locomotives, even expensive locomotives, where the reversing rod is made of just plastic, but no, this one appears to be made of metal and it's got a nice high shine as a result. Underneath the boiler you can see the internal valve gear has been represented. It's not just been missed off as with some models. That is absolutely fantastic, and it's been painted as well, as you can see. The smoke box door is ultra realistic as well. It's got that beautiful sort of pre-grouping star that seems to be on a couple of my models. I think the Caledonian single wheeler's got one, separately painted as well, and the separately fitted smoke box dart is also painted into that silver as well, so it just stands out beautifully. The buffer beams are really nicely detailed as well. There's this beautiful white lining around the red main colour of the buffer beam. You've got the running number applied there, as well as separately fitted buffers which are sprung. Let me just demonstrate, there we go. So, yep, so sprung buffers. You just get the impression with this loco that no expense has been spared, and that's exactly what you want. Once again, I just think the level of detail of this loco justifies the high price. Not that it is a particularly high price for a DCC sound locomotive, but it just quashes any question of value for money, doesn't it, when it's got so many beautiful features. Okay, so let's take a look at the cab. We've got this very interesting piece on the back of the cab roof there. I'm not absolutely sure what that would be. Maybe it's for some sort of tarpaulin, maybe, to help protect the crew inside. I'm not too sure, but either way, that looks quite a complex separately fitted piece. You also have a metal separately fitted tender full plate. Now, in this configuration, it doesn't quite reach the tender, although of course there is a close coupling option between loco and tender, so if your layout has got really wide sweeping curves, you could alter that, and I wonder then whether it would meet the tender. I think it probably would. And inside the cab you can see there is a wonderful array of cab detail inside there. It is a fully painted cab. It's not the most amazing cab we've ever seen in the world. There's no paintwork on the gauges or anything like that, but as a relatively enclosed cab I think it's just impressive in general that there is cab detail at all. So that is really good, and you can just see what a beautiful model this looks. I mean, it's presented so nicely. And the tender is no different. Just look at the amount of lining on this tender. In fact, with so much lining, they've taken what would ordinarily be quite a plain black looking tender and turned it into something completely different and completely beautiful, really, with all that lining. Absolutely wonderful. And you can see it's all done to a very high standard, even on the underframe, really, where I imagine it would be quite difficult to apply. You've got the running number on the side of the tender there, as well as the North British lettering, which is done to a high standard, as you would normally expect from Hornby. The tender itself is actually quite a complex piece because you've got this streamlined looking coal guard around the coal bunker there, which I think is part of the moulding, but still it's a very finely moulded piece, and I would be very careful with that, by the way. I wouldn't want to accidentally cause any damage to that. Around the back you've got more printed paintwork. This time it is clearly legible. I think if I get a close up here you'll be able to read what that says. To guess it's probably about the capacity of the tender, but we'll have to see. And more sprung buffers of course on the back, and the pre-fitted NEM coupling, which is already on the model when it comes out of the box. So yeah, the level of detail is absolutely wonderful. There's a little bit of sloppy paintwork here and there, but it's certainly not enough to spoil the model, although of course do consider that if that's something that you know might annoy you. But yeah, for me, just the generosity of the model, the amount of die cast, the beautiful paintwork, all of that just causes me to forgive the small issues with the paintwork, which I really don't think are a massive issue. So, absolutely astonished by that. That is really fantastic. So, I'm going to get this down onto the track. I'm going to plug my DCC controller in, and we're going to see how this thing works. And of course, we'll test some of those sounds. Okay, so there is Maude down onto the track, ready for her first ever run, and if I haven't made it absolutely clear already, I absolutely love this thing. In fact, I think this is going to be my go-to loco if I'm ever trying to convince somebody that this hobby is a good thing to get into, because it's just that beautiful. Anyway, so I've got her set up, I've got her into Railmaster, I've reprogrammed her to number 34, I think I ought to have done 36 really, just for, I don't know, just for the sake of it. But I haven't, I put her into number 34, I've not tried it yet. I don't actually know whether she's going to work. I've not even pressed any of the sound buttons yet, because I want the first ever to be on camera. I'm just checking that I've put the right wires back into my E-Link controller, and I think I have. So what I'm going to do is, got my iPad here, I'm going to hit the first button. I'm just going to press the first whistle just to confirm that this thing is actually connected up and working and on the right number. So I'm going to hit the medium whistle. Whoa, hopefully you heard that. For a tiny engine, that was actually quite a big noise. Let's try a couple of these other sounds then before I actually hit the sound button in earnest. So, whistle long. Oh my word. Somebody's got a frog in. Oh. Any more? Sounded like needs to clear its throat almost. Yeah, as I say, by the way, I haven't actually been able to find the J36 on the database yet, so I've got these sounds for the for some Great Western King class, I think. So these might not necessarily match up. So apparently this is a whistle short. Yeah, that was definitely a short whistle. 2 bursts. Yep, wheel slip, I think. Oh, yeah. I'll tell you what, these TTS locos are sounding a lot better than they used to. There's quite a bit of bass on that. I mean, it's not amazing, but it's certainly not bad. Let's have a look. Coal shovel. Yeah, I must say, that is sounding very, very good. Let's turn that off. What do you reckon? Shall we try a few others? Safety valve, that's quite a key one. Yep, that sounds like a safety valve. Let's see. Let's do 2 more. Let's see what the brake sounds like. Yep, it's a pretty good brake sound. Let's have a look, shall we? One more then. Couple of clank. Let's hear that one. Ooh, that was nice. Oh, that was quite a lengthy recording, that one. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about performance then, and let's talk about the mechanism. Now, generally speaking, you don't really have to worry about mechanism with Hornby because generally speaking, they do it properly all of the time. But just for completeness, I will just give you the basics. First of all, I'm not 100% sure which kind of motor they've got inside this one. I forgot to find out, but either way, we'll see what kind of motor it is when it runs, hopefully, regardless of whether it's 3 or 5 pole. If it runs well, then it runs well. However, it does have a full set of bearings on the driving wheels, which is very good, and as I say, you would expect nothing less from Hornby. Full loco wheel pickups, and also full tender pickups, which is absolutely fantastic. And also the tender is pretty heavy as well because it's got all of the DCC sound gear inside. So with that then, I think we'll do our first ever test run with old Maude here. I'm going to turn on the sound for the first time, so let's just hear what the background engine noise sounds like. Bit of a delay there, I thought it wasn't going to come on, but it did. Okay, I'm going to get close so that you can hear this. There you go. So pretty standard sounding really. I can see, by the way, through the chimney that there is a nice big flywheel inside there, so that's a good sign, isn't it? Okay, so I'm going to press the shunt button. I've set the shunt speed to about 5 miles an hour, which should be the equivalent of a really slow crawl. So let's try that, let's see what happens. Here we go then, I'm pressing it now. Okay, so not a promising start. Let's try that again, shall we? Let's just make sure nothing's locked up. Right, try again. Let's go a little bit faster this time. 15 miles an hour. There we go. Oh, no. Okay, well, it seems to be struggling, to put it mildly. It's stopped on the express points now. So I wonder if it just needs a good run in. I'm trying to set it into reverse. Yeah. It doesn't seem very happy, folks. It's very, very loud. Let's get this a bit faster. Just give it a little bit of a run, see if it actually improves. It sounds very good. So it's disappeared around the layout now. I'm bringing it back, and we'll go for a bit of a flyby. Hopefully it's just early teething troubles. I'm hoping it will get a lot better. I hope it's not the snowplow. That might be a thing. No, there we go. That seems a bit better. Okay, let's bring it back into shot then, and we'll try that slow speed again. It is a little bit unreasonable, I suppose, to expect it to perform perfectly straight away out of the box. But it's interesting that it was cutting out, because as I say, it's got 6 pickups going to each rail, so it shouldn't be an issue. Right. Yeah, look at that, that was quite accurate. Got that into shot. Okay, so let's try a backwards shunt then, seeing as we're slightly further forwards. Okay, so it's not too bad. I mean, that's not an amazing slow speed by any stretch, but it seems to be doing it okay. Did stop dead there for a second, but it seems alright. Okay, let's try forwards again. Yeah, that's not too bad. That's acceptable, I would say. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this running in. Let me set it to about half speed. And I'll film it going around a little while, and then we'll come back in half an hour after it's had a good run in each direction, and we'll see if it does any better. So it does seem to be a bit like the Terrier in the fact that it seems to run pretty fast, even at a medium-ish speed. Not a problem, of course, because you can slow it down, but we did see that it wasn't all that great at slow speeds, which means that possibly slightly different gearing would have given it a bit more torque at those slow speeds. It definitely sounds good though. In fact, it's extremely loud. I don't know if that'll come across. But yeah, it's extremely loud, but not too distorted. It does sound very good, I must say. Alright then folks, I'll be back shortly and we'll try that slow speed again. Alright then folks, I am back, and I'm pretty sure I've got a burst eardrum because it is really that loud. However, it isn't a massive problem, of course, because A, you can of course turn the sound off if you want to, and in doing so you hear what a beautiful quiet performer this is. It really does run nice and quietly. And of course B, if you don't mind changing a few CVs on the decoder, you can turn down the master volume, which of course solves the problem. However, for the video it's pretty good that it's so loud because at least you can hear it properly. There we go. So it's had a good run in. I always forget that that whistle happens twice. So it's had a good run in. I'm going to try it again now at slow speeds just to see if it is any improved. It's also worth noting that the plough doesn't seem to have had a bad effect on the performance. It does look as though it's touching the track, in fact. I wonder if it is. Yeah. Well, it's been running absolutely fine, I must say, although, yeah, it does look like it's kind of touching the track. Okay, let me just adjust that. Okay, yes, it did seem to have worked loose, so I'm going to have to keep an eye on that. That might have been why it was behaving badly to start with. Either way, it does seem to be a lot better now, but let's just prove it. So I'm going to set it to a shunt speed. By the way, I can't seem to get it to go any slower than this 5 miles an hour. It just considers itself off, I think. If I go any lower, I'll have to try it on a different controller. But actually, for once, as you can see, running this loco in has brought about a massive improvement. You can see it's now beautifully smooth at that slow speed. Really, really good. So, yeah. The performance is actually really, really good. And of course, because the loco itself is made of die-cast, it's got an awful lot of weight to it as well, which means it ought to be a good puller. And don't forget, these are only 2F locomotives, so they're not really designed to be pulling massive amounts. Now, it's a bit sacrilegious, this, because these are designed for freight, as I've just said. However, this thing is so beautiful, I thought it would be almost sacrilegious to run it with freight. So what I've done today is I've set some LNER coaches up, in fact 5 LNER coaches, which ought to be a good test of her pulling abilities. So I know I apologise for any realists out there that won't like seeing this with a passenger train. However, next time I run this, I promise, I vow to run a goods train with this. So you have my word, I will do that next time. For now though, ear protection back on, let's turn back on the sound. I'm going to set this into reverse and I'm going to give it a little bit of a shunt. Oh, the sound's gone straight back off again. That's annoying. Yeah, if I activate the sound on my iPad, it seems to go straight back off. But if I do it on the PC, it stays on. Interesting. Okay, here we go. Let's see if we can do it. Nice and steady. Probably keep it fairly slow because I don't want it to go smashing into the coaches. Oh, think I went a bit overboard. Think we should be okay. Alright, so it's a messy coupling, but that's my fault entirely, obviously. Okay, stop. There we go. If I was a bit more coordinated, which sadly I'm not, I would have tried a coupling clank sound effect while she coupled. Well, I guess it happens after the actual coupling itself, doesn't it? After the coaches meet, so I could still do that. There we go. Better late than never, I suppose. There we go. It does go on for a while, that. But that's quite good. Good and realistic. Okay, so I think this is going to look lovely, by the way, with LNER coaches. But, of course, the big question is, can she haul 5 of them? I reckon she probably will. Let's try it. Of course, the big test is at slow speed, because there won't be so much torque. Well, she does seem to be moving them. That's pretty good. And, man, this thing looks beautiful. Alright, very nice. Okay, a little bit quicker then. Let's set it to about 45 miles an hour, which seems to be about right. There we go. Perhaps it's a little fast. I don't know. Either way, let me show you what else is running alongside her. Alright, so I've gone for early 060 locomotives today. So on the middle line we have another beautiful Hornby model. Funnily enough, this one also has a lot of die-cast on it. It is, can you see it yet? It is the J15 with a small goods train. So there you go, at least I am capable of putting a goods train behind the goods loco. So there we go, lovely J15, that one's number 7510. And then on the inside line, yet another 060 from Hornby, a really, really good one this. This one's not a tender engine, this is a tanker. But either way, it is the J50 and it too has got a goods train. So enjoy the running session, see which other 060s you can spot. And let's see how the J36 gets on with those coaches up Gordon's Hill, shall we? Should be fine, I reckon. I am so glad that this is running well, because to start with, it didn't look like it was going to, and I would have been gutted to have said, despite how beautiful this loco is, that it's a pants performer. But no, amazingly, it seemed to improve really, really quickly, and it's now just a solid performer. It seems absolutely fine. And looking at that, it seems to be hauling 5 LNER coaches just perfectly up Gordon's Hill there. And as a 2F, that's probably all you could really ask from it, isn't it? It's a J50, great model that one. That's quite a good puller as well, as you can see, a good old train there. And there's the J36. Covered up by the J15. Thank you for that, J15, appreciate it. Oh well, I'll get another shot for you. So, quite objectively, this thing is beautiful, isn't it? It looks absolutely fantastic, really, really nice. The quality of the build is just astonishing, so heavy. And finally, to top it all off, it runs and sounds really good as well. It sounds great and it runs beautifully and smoothly. And for the money, I don't know what else you could ask for, I really don't. Alright, so here are some of my ratings then for the brand new Hornby J36 in the beautiful North British Railway lined black. So first of all, detail, I think it has to be a 5 out of 5, a combination of the fantastic paintwork, attention to detail, and just the sheer amount of metalwork on the model just makes this model look beautifully detailed. As you know, I'm no real expert on the prototypes, so I can't make a massive comment about accuracy, but certainly compared with some of the photos I've seen of the real article, it certainly doesn't look too far off. Although of course there might be some minor things that I have missed. Performance then, now initially it was a little bit scary. I thought, man, it's not going to be a good runner at all, but having now had a decent run in, it seems to be way better. It seems to do a really good slow speed, and as you can see, it's a reasonably good puller as well, and it ought to be because it weighs so much. So performance is a 5-star, I think. And the mechanism also has to be a 5-star. It's obviously got a good motor, it runs nice and smoothly, nice and quietly, all-wheel pickup, full set of bearings on the driving wheels. I can't think really of any way it could be improved, so that to me has to be a 5-star. The quality, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Generally speaking, the quality is very good. As I say, most of the model is made of metal, die-cast, which is good. However, there's a little bit of sloppiness with the paintwork, particularly around the glazing and with some of the printing, although it's not a massive issue, but I do think, to be reasonable, I couldn't give it a 5 out of 5 on quality with those issues being there. Value then, for £148.50, I do think this is a really good deal. Obviously, that is quite a lot of money, but you're getting a locomotive that is mostly die-cast, you're getting DCC sound fitted for that price as well, and of course the non-DCC fitted with sound versions are £126, which is only £22.50 cheaper, so what you're getting really with this model is you're getting full DCC sound and a much more complex livery for only £22.50, so I don't think that sounds too bad at all. In fact, I think it sounds pretty good, so I've given it a 5-star there. That really is quite good. Overall then, that is 9.63 out of 10, a very, very good score for a fantastic new model. I love this thing already. Let's put it into the rankings then. There we go, all second only to the Oxford N7 and above the Hornby J50. Yeah, it's definitely deserving of the top two, and I hope it stays there. I hope it does stay there as the year goes on. So if you fancy picking one of these gorgeous models up, particularly the pre-grouping one, they tend to sell out pretty quick. I have included a link in the description, so if you want to check those out, feel free to, and as you can probably imagine, I certainly can recommend it. So there you are then folks, I really hope you enjoyed that review. This was a good example of Hornby pulling out all of the stops, and I just love it when they do that, and I wish they'd do it more, because it really is a treat, isn't it? Anyway, do let me know in the comments what you thought about this one. Let me know which one you'd prefer to get if you're planning to get one, or if you are planning to get one, or even if you've got one already. Do let me know, it would be great to hear from you. But for now folks, once again, thank you for your company, thank you for watching, and I will see you all very, very soon. Alright, cheers folks. And I'll catch you Monday, by the way, for a live stream which is happening at 5 PM Monday night. So don't miss it.